I stared at the phone, the rain outside blurring into a grey curtain that matched the fog in my head. The quiz results stared back at me from the laptop, a pie chart of relational doom, 87% toxic dynamics, with bullet points on emotional neglect and unspoken resentments that I'd buried under late-night takeout and half-hearted apologies. Elias and I had been drifting for months, our conversation shrinking to logistics, whose turn to walk the dog, if we needed more milk, while the space between us on the couch grew wider than the sound on a foggy day. Last night had been the tipping point, him stumbling in at midnight from another work drinks at that tech startup bar in Belltown, his tie loosened like an afterthought, and me waiting up with a glass of Pinot that had gone warm. "You're killing me, Eli," I'd said, voice cracking, and he'd just sighed, collapsing onto the bed without a word, leaving me to stare at the ceiling fan whirring like my unraveling thoughts. The nurse repeated the words, her tone clipped and professional, the kind that comes from delivering too many of these calls before coffee. "Car accident on I-5. He's stable, but you should come now." Stable. The word echoed, a lifeline or a lie, I couldn't tell. I grabbed my keys from the kitchen counter, the one shaped like a salmon from our trip to the San Juans last summer, when we'd hiked hand in hand through cedar groves and whispered promises under starlit skies. That Elias felt like a ghost now, replaced by the man who'd forgotten our anniversary dinner reservation because something came up at the office. As I bolted down the stairs of our building in Capitol Hill, the damp chill of October seeping through my hoodie, I replayed the quiz question, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much does your partner make you feel seen? I'd punched in a 3, my thumb heavy, because lately, looking into his hazel eyes felt like peering into a room I'd been locked out of. The drive to Harborview Medical Center was a blur of swishing wipers and honking horns, Seattle's perpetual drizzle turning the streets into slick mirrors reflecting my fractured face in the rear view. I called his sister, Lena, from a red light near the Space Needle, her voice thick with sleep from her place in Tacoma. "What happened, Chase?" He texted me about some meeting this morning, nothing about driving. Meeting. Right. Elias worked as a software engineer for a fintech firm downtown, the kind of job that sucked him into endless sprints and happy hours that stretched into dawns. I teased him about it once, called him my E-code whisperer, but now it felt like the third wheel in our bed. Lena promised to meet me there, her words a jumble of prayers and questions I couldn't answer. Parking was a nightmare, the lot jammed with ambulances and harried families, but I wedged the Prius into a handicapped spot, forgive me, karma, and sprinted through the ER doors. The waiting room assaulted me, fluorescent buzz, the sharp tang of antiseptic masking something metallic underneath, chairs filled with hollow-eyed strangers clutching styrofoam cups. I approached the desk, my voice barely above a whisper. "Elias Harper. I'm his partner." The receptionist glanced up, her badge reading Maria, I softening just a fraction as she typed. "Room 14. He's asking for you." "Asking for me?" After I'd just labeled him the worst in some digital confessional, as if pixels could contain the ache of loving someone who was slipping away. The hallway stretched like a tunnel, doors murmuring with beeps and muffled cries, until I reached 14. The curtain parted under my hand, and there he was, Elias, propped against pillows that swallowed his frame, and for snaking into his arm, a bandage wrapping his forehead like a crown of thorns. His left leg was elevated, casted from ankle to knee, and bruises bloomed across his cheekbone, turning his golden brown skin into a map of violence. But his eyes, those warm hazel depths flecked with green, the ones that had first caught mine across a crowded coffee shop, locked onto me with a desperation that punched the air from my lungs. "Chase," he breathed, voice rough as gravel, reaching out a hand that trembled. I crossed the room in 2 strides, collapsing into the chair beside him, my fingers lacing through his without thought. His skin was cool, clammy, but the pulse under my thumb was steady, a rhythm I'd memorized in quieter nights when we'd lie tangled in sheets, tracing lazy patterns on each other's backs. "What the hell happened?" I managed, tears pricking hot at the corners of my eyes, the quiz forgotten in the storm of relief and fear. Black ice on the off-ramp. Hydroplaned into the guardrail. He winced, shifting, and the monitors beeped to protest. Truck came out of nowhere. They say I was lucky, no internal bleeding, just fractures and a concussion. "But Chase, I saw it coming, you know? Like everything's been sliding out of control for a while. His words hung there, heavy with subtext, the kind we'd avoided in our tiptoeing dances around the truth. Lucky. The word tasted bitter. If this was luck, what was the alternative? I squeezed his hand tighter, the ring on his finger, simple titanium, engraved with our initials from that impulsive trip to Vegas, pressing into my palm like a vow I wasn't sure we could keep anymore. Lena arrived 20 minutes later, bursting through the curtain with coffee in hand and her dark curls wild from the drive. She was the buffer between us, always had been since Elias introduced us at her wedding 3 years ago, where I'd caught the bouquet in a fit of ironic laughter that turned real when he kissed me under the string lights. "Oh, Eli," she murmured, leaning down to kiss his forehead, careful around the bandage. Then her gaze shifted to me, sharp and assessing. "You okay, Chase? You look like you've seen a ghost." More like become one, I thought, but I nodded, forcing a smile that felt like cracking clay. We sat there in the sterile hush, the three of us a fragile triangle, trading stories to fill the void, how he'd called her from the scene, voice slurred from pain meds, how the paramedics had cut him from his Audi, the one we'd picked out together on a sunny afternoon in Linwood, dreaming of road trips to the Olympics. As the doctor swung by, a brisk woman named Dr. Patel with a clipboard and a no-nonsense bob, she outlined the plan: overnight observation, surgery on the tibia in the morning, physical therapy for weeks. "He's tough," she said, clapping Elias on the shoulder. "But he'll need support. Family, friends, lean on them." Support. The word lodged in my throat. Hadn't I been trying? The late dinners I'd cooked from those meal kits, the playlists I'd curated for his commutes, the way I'd bitten back accusations when he'd cancel plans for just one more deadline. And him? The flowers on random Tuesdays, the note slipped into my lunch bag quoting E. Cummings, the nights he'd pull me close and murmur, "You're my anchor, Chase." But anchors could drag you under if the chain rusted. By evening, the room had dimmed to a twilight glow, machines humming a lullaby as Lena stepped out for a smoke. Elias turned to me, his free hand cupping my cheek, thumb brushing away a tear I hadn't realized had fallen. "I'm sorry," he whispered, eyes searching mine. "For everything. The distance, the fights. I didn't mean for it to get this bad. Sorry." It was the balm we'd both craved, but as I leaned into his touch, the quiz results flickered in my mind like a bad omen. Was this the turning point, or just another bandage over a wound that wouldn't heal? The rain pattered on, indifferent, as I kissed his knuckles, tasting salt and regret. "Me too," I said, voice breaking. "God, Eli, me too." The hours blurred into a vigil, nurses checking vitals like clockwork, the scent of hospital jello clinging to the air. I dozed in the chair, head lolling against his bedrail, dreams fragmented with images of twisted metal and his laugh echoing from better days. When I woke, pre-dawn light filtering through slattered blinds, he was watching me, expression soft in that way that always unraveled me. "Remember our first fight?" he asked, voice a thread. I did, over something trivial, like whose turn it was to load the dishwasher, escalating into shouts about unmet needs, ending with me storming out to the balcony overlooking the hill's eclectic streets. He'd followed, wrapping arms around me from behind, chin on my shoulder. "We're in this, Chase. Messy and all." That memory anchored me now, even as doubt whispered that maybe we'd outgrown the mess. Discharge came at noon the next day, after a parade of forms and prescriptions. Lena drove us home in her Subaru, the cars making Elias awkward as a newborn foal, me hovering like a helicopter parent. Our loft felt alien upon return, the half-eaten tie from last night congealing on the counter, his laptop still open to code that looked like hieroglyphs. I helped him to the couch, propping pillows under his leg, while Lena unpacked the pharmacy haul, painkillers, ice packs, a walker that made him groan in embarrassment. "I'll check in later," she said, hugging us both at the door. "Take care of each other." The door clicked shut, leaving a silence thick as fog rolling in from the bay. We ordered pho from that hole in the wall on Broadway, the kind with extra basil and lime, eaten cross-legged on the floor because the couch was too low. It was almost normal, spoons clinking, steam curling up like secrets. Tell me about the accident, I said finally, when the bowls were empty and the TV droned some Netflix true crime in the background. He hesitated, gaze drifting to the window where joggers braved the drizzle. It was stupid. Rushing to a meeting with the VP, big pitch on this blockchain thing. Phone buzzed with your text from last night, the one about us needing to talk, and I swerved looking at it. My text. The one I'd sent at 2 a.m., fingers flying in the dark. We can't keep doing this, Eli. It's breaking me. Guilt twisted in my gut, sharp as the chopsticks beside me. So it was my fault. He shook his head fiercely. No. Mine. For ignoring the signs. For letting work eclipse us. That afternoon stretched into a tentative truce, me fetching water and adjusting his pillows, him cracking jokes about looking like a pirate with the sling on his arm. But as dusk fell, painting the walls in bruised purples, the undercurrent resurfaced. I scrolled through my phone while he napped, landing on the quiz again, the results mocking me. The worst person ever. The words burned, especially now, with him vulnerable across the room, chest rising and falling in uneasy sleep. What if that was the truth? What if the accident was the universe's way of forcing a reckoning? I closed the tab, heart pounding, and slipped into the kitchen to brew tea, chamomile, his favorite, the one I'd mocked until he pouted and I caved. He woke to the scent, stirring with a grimace. Stay with me tonight. It wasn't a question, more a plea, and I nodded, curling up beside him on the couch, our bodies fitting like puzzle pieces worn smooth by time. His head on my shoulder, fingers intertwined, we watched the city lights flicker on, ferries cutting through the dark water below. I love you, Chase, he murmured, voice muffled against my neck. Even when I'm an idiot. Love. The word wrapped around us, warm but fragile, like the steam from forgotten mugs. I pressed my lips to his temple, tasting the faint bitterness of hospital soap. I love you too. But we have to fix this. For real. He nodded against me, a silent pact in the gathering night. Yet sleep evaded me, thoughts churning like the tide. The accident had stripped us bare, revealing cracks I'd papered over with routine. Elias's ambition had always been his fire, drawing me in during those early days when he'd talk for hours about algorithms that could change the world, his hands gesturing wildly over diner fries. I'd been the barista then, slinging lattes at a spot near the university district, sketching in notebooks between shifts, dreaming of illustrating graphic novels. He was the spark that lit my fuse, encouraging me to quit and chase the freelance gigs that now paid our half of the rent. But somewhere along the line, his fire had consumed him, leaving me in the ashes, tending embers alone. Morning brought PT instructions and a delivery of groceries, Lena's doing, with a note, fuel for fighters. We muddled through breakfast, Elias hobbling to the table on crutches, me buttering toast with exaggerated care. Conversation skirted the edges, his team's reaction to his absence, their covering, but the pitch is delayed, my latest illustration rejection, another pitch deck for a startup that ghosted. Surface stuff, safe harbors. But after lunch, as he iced his leg, he broached it. That text last night. Before the crash. You meant it, didn't you? About us breaking. I froze, fork midway to my mouth, salad forgotten. Honesty or mercy? Yeah, I admitted, setting it down. The quiz this morning. I called you the worst. It felt true in the moment. His face crumpled, not in anger but sorrow, eyes glistening. I know I've been absent. The job's a beast, but that's no excuse. There's more, Chase. Something I haven't told you. The air thickened, my pulse a drum in my ears. More. The word dangled like a noose. What? He looked away, jaw tight. Remember Mark from work? The new dev. I did, the charming guy with the beard and easy laugh who'd joined happy hours, always toasting to code and conquests. A knot formed in my stomach. We kissed. Once. At that team retreat in Portland last month. Drunk, stupid. I stopped it, swore I'd never again, but I didn't tell you because I was ashamed. Terrified of losing you. Betrayal landed like a fist, stealing breath, vision narrowing to his bowed head. Kissed. The word echoed, painting pictures I couldn't unsee, Elias's lips on another's, hands perhaps wandering, in some hotel bar overlooking the Willamette. You what? My voice was a whisper, then a roar, chair scraping back as I stood. How could you, Eli? After everything? He reached for me, crutches clattering. It was a mistake. One moment of weakness. I love you, only you. But the room spun, trust fracturing like glass underfoot. I backed toward the door, tears blurring his pleading face. I need air. Space. The rain had stopped, streets steaming in pale sun, but inside, the storm raged on. I wandered the blocks of Capitol Hill in a daze, the neighborhood's vibrant pulse, street artists chalking murals on sidewalks, couples spilling from craft breweries with laughter that grated like sandpaper, feeling distant, muffled. My phone buzzed incessantly in my pocket, Elias's texts, a barrage of please come back and I swear it's over, interspersed with Lena's worried check-ins. But I kept walking, past the vintage shops with window displays of flannel shirts and vinyl records, down to Cal Anderson Park where dog walkers tossed frisbees and joggers looped the paths. The accident, the confession, it all collided in my chest, a wreck far uglier than crumpled metal. How had we gotten here? From stolen kisses in coffee shop alleys to this chasm, bridged only by lies and near death. I found a bench overlooking the fountain, its water arcing in lazy jets, and sank down, head in hands. Memories flooded unbidden, our first pride in Seattle, rainbow flag snapping in the breeze as we marched hand in hand, Elias hoisting me onto his shoulders for a better view of the floats. He'd worn that ridiculous feather boa, pink and shedding, tickling my neck as we cheered. Or the quiet winter night we'd built a pillow fort in the living room, fairy lights strung like stars, reading aloud from my favorite Neil Gaiman novel until dawn. Those moments were real, weren't they? Not erased by one drunken kiss in Portland. But betrayal wasn't a single act, it was the secrecy, the erosion of what we'd built. I pulled up the quiz again, the pie chart now a cruel joke. 87% toxic. Maybe it was me too, holding grudges, retreating into silence instead of fighting for us. An hour ticked by, the sun dipping low, casting long shadows that mirrored my turmoil. My feet carried me to a familiar spot, the little bookstore on Pike, Broadston Books, where Elias had proposed we move in together over stacks of queer lit. Inside, the air smelled of aged paper and fresh espresso from the attached cafe. I browsed the shelves aimlessly, fingers trailing spines, James Baldwin's essays on love's complexities, Andrew Holleran's Tales of Desire in the City, until a title jumped out, The Velvet Rage, a memoir on gay men's quests for authenticity. I bought it on impulse, the clerk's knowing smile a small comfort, and texted Lena, tell Eli I'm okay. Need time. Staying at yours tonight. Her place in Tacoma was a sanctuary, a cozy craftsman bungalow filled with her pottery wheels and half-glazed mugs, the sound visible from the porch swing. She didn't pry when I arrived, just handed me a beer and a blanket, settling beside me as ferry horns lowed in the distance. Spill when you're ready, she said, her voice a steady hum. And I did, words tumbling out like rain, the quiz, the accident call, the Portland kiss. She listened without interruption, her face a mask of empathy and quiet fury. Eli's always been impulsive, she said finally, squeezing my knee. But he's not a cheater at heart. Scared, maybe. Of failing you, of the pressure. Scared. It humanized him, softened the edges of my anger, but didn't dull the hurt. We talked late into the night, her stories of their childhood in Eugene, Elias as the protective big brother, defending her from bullies, painting a fuller portrait, one I'd glimpsed but never fully grasped. Sleep came fitful on her guest futon, dreams laced with crashes and embraces that dissolved into smoke. Morning brought resolve, I couldn't ghost him forever. Back in Seattle by noon, the loft quiet save for the tick of the wall clock, Elias asleep on the couch, crutches propped like sentinels. I watched him for a moment, chest rising steadily, the bruise on his cheek fading to yellow. Vulnerable. Human. My hand hovered, then withdrew. Instead, I started coffee, the machine gurgling like a confession. He stirred to the aroma, eyes fluttering open. Chase. Hope and fear mingled in his tone. I set the mug down, black with 2 sugars, just how he liked. We need to talk. Really talk. We did, words carving out space between us. He owned the kiss fully, no excuses, just raw remorse. Mark flirted, I was buzzed from the open bar, and for a second, it felt like escape. From the deadlines, the doubts about us. But it was wrong, Chase. I came home to you, always do. Doubts about us. The admission stung, but it cracked open my own, the freelance droughts that left me insecure, snapping at him over small things, the way I'd pulled away sexually, intimacy shrinking to rote routines. I felt invisible, I said, voice thick. Like you were choosing code over me. He nodded, tears tracking down his face. I was blind. Let me make it right. Therapy became our lifeline, not some app quiz but real sessions with a counselor named Theo in a sunlit office near the market. Elias on crutches, me fidgeting with my sketchpad, we unpacked the layers, his fear of vulnerability rooted in a father's abandonment, my perfectionism from art school rejections. Theo's questions were gentle scalpels, drawing out the pus of unspoken fears. What does love look like when it's hard, he'd ask, and we'd grapple, homework assignments like date night sand screens or gratitude journals feeling both trite and transformative. Progress was incremental, a shared laugh over burnt pancakes, his hand on my thigh during a movie, tentative but electric. Weeks blurred into a fragile normalcy, his cast itching as bone knit, my illustrations landing a gig for a local zine on queer resilience. One evening, as autumn leaves skittered across Broadway, we ventured out, first real date post-crash, to a speakeasy in Pioneer Square, all exposed brick and jazz crooners. He wore his good blazer over a crisp shirt, crutches ditched for a cane that lent him a debonair air. Over old fashions, he raised his glass. To us. The messy, beautiful us. The toast warmed me, but as his foot nudged mine under the table, a spark ignited, pulling me back to our bedroom that night. Clothes shed in a trail from door to bed, his body familiar yet rediscovered, scars and all. We moved slow, reverent, his whispers against my skin, you're everything, building to a release that left us gasping, entwined. But healing isn't linear, shadows lingered. A late-night call from Mark, just checking on Eli, sent jealousy flaring, Elias reassuring me by blocking the number on speakerphone. My own triggers surfaced, a cancelled illustration meeting echoing his old work excuses, leading to a quiet dinner where I accused him of drifting again. I'm here, he insisted, pulling out a folder from his bag, printouts of job searches for remote gigs, less demanding firms. For us. Sacrifice. It humbled me, prompting my own leap, pitching a graphic novel idea to an agent, vulnerability laid bare in panels of our story, anonymized but true. Winter crept in, holidays looming like a test. We hosted a small Friendsgiving at the loft, Lena and her wife Myra, our buddy Theo from therapy, plates piled with turkey and Lena's famous cornbread. Laughter filled the space, toasts to survival, and as Elias's hand found mine under the table, I felt the shift, from survivors to something stronger. Yet, in the quiet after, washing dishes side by side, he paused. There's something else. From before the accident. My heart stuttered. Another secret? The pitch I was rushing to? It wasn't just work. I was going to surprise you, propose a sabbatical. Us, traveling. Fixing a ring I'd had engraved for months. He pulled a small box from his pocket, velvet worn from hiding. Inside, a band of white gold, etched with coordinates of our first kiss spot. Tears blurred it, joy and ache mingling. Yes, I breathed, slipping it on. 1,000 times yes. But fate, that capricious bitch, had one more twist. The next morning, as snow dusted the city, a rare Seattle blanketing, Elias's phone rang with the office line. Harper? We need you in. The team's tanking without you. His face fell, the sabbatical dream clashing with duty. "I can't," he said, but doubt crept in, the old pull. I saw it, the betrayal not of a kiss, but of choices yet unmade. "Go," I urged, masking fear. "But come back to us." He left, cane tapping into the flurry, leaving me with the ring's weight, wondering if love could weather one more storm. The snow melted by noon, leaving slushy streets that mirrored the uncertainty pooling in my gut. I paced the loft, the ring glinting on my finger like a beacon or a warning, Elias's absence stretching the morning into an eternity of what ifs. He'd promised to be back by lunch, sandwiches from the deli on the corner, but the clock ticked past 1, then 2, my texts unanswered, first playful emojis, then edged with worry, everything okay? The graphic novel pitch sat open on my desk, panels half-sketched of a couple navigating fog-shrouded paths, their hands linked but faces turned away. Art as therapy, Theo called it, it felt like prophecy. When he finally burst through the door at 4, cheeks flushed from cold and haste, the story spilled out over hastily reheated leftovers. The team had imploded, a key client bailed, code riddled with bugs from his absence, the VP cornering him in the conference room with pleas laced with threats of layoffs. "They need me, Chase. Just this week, to stabilize." His eyes pleaded, hazel depths stormy, and I wanted to believe it was temporary, a blip in our blueprint. But the ring felt heavy, the engraved coordinates a reminder of paths untaken. "A week," I agreed, voice steady despite the tremor inside. "But no more. We start planning the trip tomorrow." He kissed me fiercely, gratitude in every press of lips, but as he dove back into his laptop that evening, fingers flying over keys, I wondered if code could rewrite our vows. The week devolved into a siege. Elias left at dawn, returned past midnight, the loft a revolving door of takeout containers and his exhausted sighs. I filled the voids with work, ink bleeding across pages, my agent's feedback a mix of praise and push, lean into the emotional rawness, it's your strength. Rawness. If only she knew. Nights, I'd wait up, sketching by lamplight, until he collapsed beside me, mumbling apologies into my hair. Intimacy flickered but didn't ignite, his touches distracted, mine tentative. Lena noticed during a coffee run, her eyes narrowing over lattes at a cafe in Fremont. "He's relapsing," she said bluntly. "The workaholism, it's his armor. Don't let him hide behind it." Armor. The word fit, Elias, ever the fixer, coding solutions while our real fractures widened. By Friday, tension simmered to a boil. He texted mid-afternoon, staying late. "Love you. Love you." 2 words that once anchored now fell adrift. I closed the studio door, our spare room turned art nook, and let loose, canvases shoved aside, tears hot on sketchpads, a scream muffled into pillows. Betrayal revisited, not in flesh but in neglect, the kiss in Portland paling against this slow suffocation. When he slunk in at 1 a.m., reeking of vending machine coffee, I was waiting, arms crossed in the kitchen glow. "This is it, Eli. The week's up. We're done pretending." His face crumpled, crutches long gone but limp returning from fatigue. "One more day. Please. They're firing Jamal if I don't wrap this." Jamal, the junior dev, father of 2, face I'd glimpsed in holiday cards. Duty. It warred with us, a third lover stealing breaths. The fight erupted, words weapons, me accusing him of choosing pixels over promises, him retorting that my selfish art dreams ignored his sacrifices. Selfish. I hurled back, voice echoing off brick walls. "I'm the one holding us together while you chase ghosts." He flinched, then fired, "And you're the one who almost left after one mistake. Maybe I can't be perfect for you." Perfect. The myth we'd chased, crumbling under scrutiny. I stormed to the bedroom, door slamming like a guillotine, curling under covers that smelled of him. Sleep came in fits, dreams of rings sinking into dark waters, coordinates lost. Dawn brought regret's hangover. He was gone when I woke, a note on the counter, "Coffee's hot. I'll fix this." Breakfast date. Vulnerability peeked through his script, and I softened, just enough. We met at a diner in Wallingford, vinyl booth sticky with syrup ghosts, ordering stacks of pancakes drowned in berries. Conversation tiptoed, apologies layered like crepes, fragile but sweet. I scared you, he admitted. Fork paused. Pushed too hard because I'm terrified of failing, at work, at us. Terrified. Echoing Lena's words. I reached across, tracing his knuckles. We're both scared. But running doesn't build bridges. The meal ended with a plan, boundaries drawn, his resignation letter drafted by evening, our sabbatical locked in for spring, first stop, the Southwest Canyons, chasing sunsets. Relief bloomed, tentative as crocuses under snow. That night, we reclaimed the bed, bodies aligning with intent, his hands mapping me like new terrain. I see you, he whispered, eyes locked, and for the first time in months, I believed it. Mornings shifted, shared runs along the waterfront, him steady now, me sketching seagulls mid-stride, coffee rituals where we'd trade dreams over mugs. My novel gained traction, agent buzzing about publishers, while Elias networked for freelance code, his inbox a garden of possibilities. Friends noticed the Theo at our check-in, grinning. You're glowing. Both of you. Glow. It fit, this quiet luminescence after storm. But winter's chill held one final gale. Valentine's approached, and Elias planned a surprise, tickets to a cabaret show in the International District, all velvet curtains and sultry songs. Dressed in slacks and a button-down that hugged his frame, he looked devastating, Kana prop turned accessory. The performance wove tales of longing and loss, a queer odyssey that mirrored ours, and as the soprano crooned of mended hearts, his hand tightened in mine. Post-show, over dim sum in a lantern-lit spot, he slid an envelope across the table, itineraries for our trip, detailed with hikes in Zion, stargazing in Sedona. Our reset, he said, smile boyish. Joy surged, but as we walked home arm in arm, snow flurrying again, my phone lit with a call from an unknown number. Chase Whitaker. A woman's voice, polished, urgent. This is Rebecca from Apex FinTech. We have an offer for Elias, lead engineer, remote flexible, double his current salary. But it starts next week, before your plans. The offer. A siren song, tempting with stability, security, the very chains we'd vowed to break. I handed the phone to him, heart sinking as excitement lit his face. This could change everything, he said later, pacing our bedroom. Change? But to what? I lay awake beside him, the ring's coordinates mocking me, wondering if love meant letting go or holding fast. The decision loomed like a thunderhead. Elias wrestled visibly, calls with the recruiter, pros-cons lists scribbled on napkins. It's not the old job, he argued. Remote means us first. But I saw the hook, the endless meetings that bled into nights. Confrontation brewed over a mundane dinner, pasta primavera, sauce splattering like blood. Take it if you want, I said, fork clattering. But don't expect me to wait while you disappear again. Hurt flashed in his eyes. You think I'd throw us away? This is for our future, house, stability, kids maybe someday. Kids. The word hung, a dream we'd whispered in postcoital hazes, surrogacy or adoption in some hazy tomorrow. But futures built on resentment crumbled. He chose me, or so he said, declining the offer with a polite email that left him deflated, staring at the ceiling that night. I hate this, he muttered. Feeling like every choice costs us. Cost. Love's currency, I realized, paid in compromises and courage. We clung together, bodies seeking solace, but dawn brought a counterpunch, my agent calling with a book deal, 6 figures, deadline tight, requiring focus that meant sidelining the trip. Irony bit deep. Your turn to sacrifice, he teased, but beneath lurked fear. Sacrifice. The word bound us, a knot tightening. Spring teased with cherry blossoms along the Ave, our loft airing out winter's staleness. We pushed forward, therapy fortnightly, date nights etched in ink, picnics in Discovery Park, where we'd chase sunset over the Sound. Intimacy deepened, exploratory, his touches reverent, mine bold. "You're my muse," I told him one night, pencil sketching his profile by candlelight, capturing the curve of his lip, the scar faint on his temple. "Muse." He blushed, pulling me down, love a language of skin and size. Yet crisis circled. Elias's freelance dried up, rejections piling like unpaid bills, his mood curdling to sharp edges. "What if I'm not enough?" he confessed during a hike in the Cascades, views of Rainier mocking our smallness. Enough. The doubt that had fueled his betrayal, now laid bare. I stopped, turning him to face me. "You're everything. We're enough together." The words landed, a vow renewed, but as we descended, thunder rumbling distant, I felt the gathering storm, not weather, but the one within. Summer arrived in Seattle like a reluctant guest, sunbursts piercing the perpetual overcast, turning the city into a mosaic of iced coffee lines and ferry decks packed with tourists. Our sabbatical loomed, bags half-packed with hiking boots and sketchbooks, but the air hummed with unspoken strain. Elias's freelance drought had stretched into weeks, his laptop a graveyard of unanswered pitches, each rejection email a jab to his pride. I'd catch him staring out the window at cargo ships lumbering toward the horizon, jaw set in that way that meant he was rebuilding walls brick by code. My book deal brought steady checks, easing rent pangs, but money talk soured dinners, his offers to contribute met with my deflections, guilt threading through gratitude. One muggy afternoon, as I inked final panels at my desk, he emerged from the bedroom, face ashen. "I got an email," he said, voice flat. "From Apex. The author's back, urgent hire, relocation to their Austin office. Better pay, equity. Austin. Texas heat, tech boomtown, a world away from our rainy enclave." The word cleaved the room, our plans fracturing like glass under heel. "Relocation?" I echoed, pencil snapping in my grip. He nodded, avoiding my eyes. "They want me on site for the launch. It's huge, Chase. Could set us up." Set us up. The phrase echoed his earlier temptations, but now it carried the weight of desperation, his unemployment a specter we'd danced around. We circled the topic that evening over craft beers on the balcony, the hill's rooftops twinkling below like fallen stars. "It's not forever," he pressed, hand on my knee. 6 months, maybe a year. Then we reassess. Reassess. Code for compromise, the kind that had nearly sunk us before. Anger simmered, hot and familiar. "And what about the trip? The ring's promise? Or was that just talk?" He recoiled, beer forgotten. "Don't make it black and white. This is survival, for both of us. Your book's flying, but what if it tanks? We need security." Security. The barb landed, my success a shield he'd turned against me. "So I'm the fallback? While you chase another golden calf." The argument escalated, voices rising over the hum of traffic, drawing stares from neighbors walking dogs. Accusations flew, him calling my caution fearmongering, me labeling his ambition selfish sabotage. "You kissed a guy and lied," I shouted, the old wound reopening. "Now this?" "Patterns, Eli." He went still, pain etching lines around his mouth. "That was one mistake. This is different. Different. But trust, once shattered, left shards that cut deep." I retreated to the studio, door locked, sketching furious strokes, dark figures parting at a crossroads, one vanishing into neon haze. Hours later, he slipped a note under the door, "I love you enough to fight fair. Talk tomorrow?" "Love." It begged, but doubt whispered louder. Morning brought olive branches, coffee in bed, his apology handwritten on loft stationery. We met at a neutral ground, the Japanese garden in the arboretum, koi gliding serene under arched bridges. Paths wound us through maples and azaleas, words following haltingly. I panicked, he admitted, cane left behind but limp subtle on uneven gravel. Freelance failing, bills stacking, felt like I was drowning you in my mess. Drowning. Poetic, but true, I'd shouldered more, resenting silently. "And Austin?" I asked, pausing by a lantern mossed with age. He sighed, leaves rustling agreement. Tempting escape. But not worth losing you. Relief flickered, but I pressed. Decline it. Commit to the trip. To us. He nodded, pulling out his phone, drafting the refusal right there, voice memo to the recruiter, grateful, but family first. The decision sealed with a kiss under a weeping willow, tender and tasting of green tea, but victory felt Pyrrhic. Back home, unpacking the Austin ghost meant deeper dives, joint budgeting sessions over spreadsheets, his coding boot camps for upskilling, my novel promo blurring into couples' vlogs, quick clips of us cooking fusion tacos, captioned Love in the Grind. Community anchored us, a queer book club at Elliott Bay, where we read Audre Lorde and debated radical self-care, voices blending in the stacks. Friends like Myra hosted game nights, her laughter a balm, pulling truths from Elias over charades, his fear of obsolescence in a field that devoured youth. Yet crisis crested subtly. Mid-July, during a heatwave that drove us to Alki Beach, towels spread on pebbled sand, waves lapping like confessions. Elias's phone buzzed incessantly, old colleagues from Apex, casual what ifs that he silenced but couldn't hide. They're persistent, he grumbled, tossing it into his bag. Persistent. Like the doubt gnawing him, manifesting in restless nights where he'd bolt upright, sweating from dreams of empty inboxes. I held him then, murmurs of "you're enough" against his back, but the seed was sown. One evening, post-beach sunburn slathered in aloe, he cracked. What if I take a part-time gig? Remote, low stakes. Just to feel useful. Useful. The word broke me, him, brilliant and broken by metrics. We argued again, this time in the shower, steam clouding mirrors as water cascaded. You're spiraling, I said, soaping his shoulders. Let go. He turned, eyes fierce. Easy for you, your book's a hit. Mine silence. Silence. His resentment surfaced, a tide pulling us under. I shut off the tap, wrapping in towels like armor. Don't weaponize my success. We're a team. Team. But teams faltered without trust. That night, sleep eluded, the rings band chafing like accusation. August burned hotter, our trip date circling like a deadline. We prepped feverishly, vaccinations updated, playlists curated, a shared journal for roadside reflections. Distractions mounted, my launch party at a gallery and so do, Elias beaming in the crowd, toasting to stories that heal. His presence grounded me, but whispers from tech bros, heard Apex is hiring, tell him to hit me up, stung like salt. Later, in the car home, he confessed. They offered again. In-person chat tomorrow. Just to hear them out. Hear them out. Betrayal's echo, softer but insidious. No, I said, pulling over near the stadium's glow. Or we're done. Ultimatum hung, harsh in neon light. He stared, then nodded. You're right. I'm done chasing shadows. The meeting cancelled, but fallout lingered. Therapy with Theo turned raw, Elias voicing imposter syndrome, roots in a childhood of be the man, provide, me unpacking codependency, fearing abandonment since my parents' divorce. Theo's exercises, mirror affirmations, I am worthy as I am, felt hokey but chipped at armor. Progress showed, Elias volunteering at a coding camp for LGBTQ youth in the Central District, his face alight sharing algorithms with wide-eyed teens. This, he said, returning dusty from chalkboards, feels real. Real. It reignited him, freelance nibbles following, small apps for non-profits, pay modest but purpose pure. As departure neared, harmony bloomed. We drove to the Olympics for a send-off hike, wildflowers nodding along trails, summit views of endless blue. At the peak, wind-whipped, he dropped to one knee, not proposal, but renewal. I choose you. Every day. Tears mixed with sweat, our embrace fierce against the drop. Back in the city, packing frenzy, duffels zipped, fridge cleared, Lena's farewell barbecue with ribs and ribs-cracking laughs. Don't elope without me, she teased, hugging tight. But en route to the airport, Crisis detonated. Elias's phone rang, his mother, voice quavering from Eugene. Your dad's sick. Cancer. Come home. Home. The word yanked, Oregon's pull versus our escape. His face drained, plans dissolving. We postpone, I said, hand on his. But he shook his head. Go without me. I'll join in a week. Without me. The fracture widened, love tested in triage. The airport drop-off was a hasty blur, Elias's kiss lingering like a bruise as I wheeled my carry-on through security, the hum of travelers a cacophony drowning my unease. Portland outbound, but not to the canyons, rerouted to Eugene, trading Red Rock dreams for hospital fluorescence. His dad's illness hit like a derailment, pancreatic, advanced, the kind doctors whispered about in corners. Elias's voice on the phone that night, from his childhood home, cracked with exhaustion. It's bad, Chase. Really bad. Bad. Understatement for a man who'd shaped him, distant provider, golf pro turned retiree, the one who'd walked out on his family when Elias was 12, only to circle back years later with awkward apologies over beers. Irony, the abandoner now abandoned by health. I landed in a drizzle that felt like Seattle's farewell, renting a subcompact for the drive south, radio scanning indie folk that twisted the knife, songs of roads not taken, lovers parted. The Harper house loomed on a quiet street, bungalow sagging under ivy, Lena's car already parked. Inside, the air thick with liniment and unspoken grief, Elias enveloped me in the foyer, his body a dam against tears. You came, he breathed, as if I'd had a choice. Choice. The word mocked our upended plans, bags dumped in the guest room lined with faded sports trophies, Elias's glory days, quarterback star eclipsed by code. The vigil began, hospital runs to Sacred Heart, where Tom Harper lay skeletal in a bed too large, monitors beeping dirges. Elias at his side, holding hands calloused from clubs, voice steady recounting ball games and bad jokes. Remember that hole-in-one at Eugene Country Club? Tom would chuckle weakly, eyes hazel like his son's, flickering gratitude. I hovered peripheral, fetching coffees, sketching in waiting rooms to capture the raw, a father's regret etched in wrinkles, a son's forgiveness forged in fire. Nights, back at the house, we collapsed into the double bed, bodies seeking anchor but sleep fractured, Elias bolting awake, murmuring dad-like incantation. Lena became our spine, shuttling between her Tacoma commute and here, her pottery hand steady as she cooked stews and mediated silences. His processing, she told me over porch cigarettes one dusk, fireflies winking like lost signals. Processing. Elias's armor reformed, calls to Austin recruiters paused, but emails from Apex lingered in his inbox, unread talismans. He thinks providing means fixing, she added. Fixing. The Harper legacy, Tom's shadow long. I nodded, smoke curling questions, could we fix us amid this? Weeks bled, summer fading to gold leaves. Tom's decline accelerated, chemo rounds that left him ashen, hospice talks in hushed tones. Elias withdrew, volunteering at the coding camp via Zoom, but joy dimmed, his laughter forced over family dinners with aunts bearing casseroles. Intimacy waned, our touches clinical, comfort over passion, the ring on my finger a quiet sentinel. One night, after a particularly brutal consult, prognosis weeks, not months, he shattered. Curled on the living room rug, Tom's old Persian frayed under us, sobs racking him. I hated him for leaving. Now he's leaving again, and I can't fix it. Fix it! The mantra broke, vulnerability spilling. I held him, rocking, words inadequate, you don't have to. Just be here. Being here meant concessions, my novel deadline loomed, revisions emailed from hospital Wi-Fi, agent sympathetic but pressing. Family first, I typed, but guilt gnawed, Elias sacrificing our dreams for this, me tethered by choice. A call from Seattle jarred, gallery wanting more illustrations, deadline tight. Fly back, Elias urged, eyes hollow in the kitchen light. Don't stall your life for mine. Stall. The word wounded, implying our love a pause. We're in this, I countered, echoing old vows. But tension simmered, small fissures, he snapping at my suggestions for Tom's pain management, me retreating to sketches of empty hospital corridors. Crisis peaked mid-September, Tom's lucid window closing. The family gathered, cousins from Portland, a sister from Boise, air thick with reminiscences and recriminations. Elias mediated, the golden sun, but cracks showed, a heated exchange with Tom over wasted years, voices rising until machines wailed protest. Later, in the parking lot under sodium lamps, Elias punched the air, rage uncoiling. He knew about me, gay son, and said nothing. Just golf tips and silence. Silence. The paternal betrayal led atop ours, Portland's kiss a footnote. I pulled him close, rain starting, mixing with tears. He loves you. In his broken way. Broken. Like us, mending jagged. Hospice transferred Tom home, the bungalow a cocoon of medical beds and morphine drips. We tag-teamed vigils, Elias reading aloud from Tom's dogged westerns, voice steadying. One evening, as sunset bled orange through blinds, Tom beckoned me alone. Frail hand in mine, he whispered, "Take care of my boy. He's got your heart now." Heart. Possession turned gift, tears pricking. Always, I promised, glimpsing the man beneath the myths. Tom slipped away at dawn 2 days later, monitors flatlining to birdsong outside. The room stilled, Elias's wail primal, shattering quiet. We held the wake in the backyard, under oaks strung with lanterns, neighbors toasting with local Pinots. Eulogies flowed, Tom's swing lessons, his quiet pride in Elias's tech triumphs. Elias spoke last, voice raw, "You taught me to swing for fences. I forgive the misses." Forgiveness. The word hung, a model for us. Aftermath engulfed, paperwork, probate, Elias adrift in suits and condolences. Grief manifested jagged, nights of bourbon by the fireplace, days of numb drives along the Willamette. Our trip, postponed indefinitely, loomed ghostly, Austin's offer revived in spam filters, tempting stability amid chaos. One stormy afternoon, papers scattered on the dining table, he confronted it. What now, Chase? Dad's estate, a little cash, the house. Sell? Stay. Now. The question unmoored us, love's map redrawn. We chose retreat, a weekend at the coast, Cannon Beach, Haystack Rock sentinel against Pacific fury. Rented a cabin, salt air scouring grief's salt. Walks on tide pools, his hand in mine, we unpacked, Tom's absence a mirror to our fears. I can't lose you too, he confessed, waves crashing chorus. Then don't, I replied, kissing salt from lips. Reconnect I unsparked, bodies on flannel sheets, urgent and unhurried, reclaiming amid roar. Back in Eugene, decisions crystallized, house to Lena, cash seeding a joint fund. Elias dove into grief coding, an app for end-of-life planning, raw and real. My novel wrapped, dedication, for anchors in storms. But shadows persisted, a letter from Tom, found in his desk, to Elias, proud of the man you became. Sorry I couldn't say it. Tears anew, but catharsis. October chilled, Seattle calling. Packing the bungalow, ghosts lingering, we drove north, rings glinting in sun. Ready for canyons, he asked, hand on gishift. Ready. But fate, ever the trickster, waited at the border of healing. Fall in Seattle welcomed us with amber haze, leaves carpeting Broadway like confetti from a half-remembered parade. The loft felt vast upon return, echoes of Eugene's closeness lingering in unpacked boxes and the faint scent of Tom's aftershave on Elias's jacket. Grief had reshaped him, lines etched deeper around his eyes, but a quiet resolve in his posture, as if loss had sanded rough edges. My novel hit shelves that week, launch at a cozy spot in Ballard with craft ales and queer icons toasting, Elias at my side, his arm a steady weight. To stories that save, he murmured, clinking glasses, pride in his gaze warming the room's chill. Success buoyed us, but undercurrent swirled. Elias's app gained traction, beta testers from hospice groups, feedback emails praising its empathy. This is it, he said one night, laptop glowing as we sprawled on the rug, Take-out pad Thai cooling. Something good from the bad. Good. Alchemy of ache, but his freelance remained sporadic, bills nipping heels. Austin Spector resurfaced, not an offer, but a LinkedIn message from an old colleague, heard about your dad. Opportunity here if you're open. Opportunity. The word slithered, Elias deleting it with a sigh, but seed planted. We revived the sabbatical, trimming to a month, Zion first, then Sedona, mindful of timelines, my promo tour, his app deadlines. Planning sessions over maps and mellow became rituals, pinning dreams like fireflies. Intimacy flourished, grief's forge tempering passion, lazy Sundays in bed, his fingers tracing novel tattoos on my ribs, whispers of futures laced with we. Therapy with Theo affirmed, loss accelerates growth. You're blooming. Blooming. Felt true, roots delving deeper. But crisis brewed in whispers. Mid-November, rain lashing windows, Elias's phone lit with a call from Apex's CEO, personal, post-obit condolences morphing to we need your vision, Harper. Lead the Portland satellite, commute from Seattle. Commute. Seductive proximity, salary to bury debts. He paced the kitchen, recounting to me over chamomile. It's not relocation. Flexible. Flexible. Echo of past promises. Doubt flickered. And the trip? The app? He deflated. Side gigs. We make it work. Work. The siren, always. Argument ignited slow, then fierce, me accusing pattern repetition, him defending provision as love. Dad died broke in spirit, I won't, he snapped, voice echoing off stainless steel. And I died a little when you kissed Mark, I retorted, wound reopening. Bedroom doors slammed, night spent separate, he on couch, me sketching furies in the studio, panels of lovers at impasse, one hand outstretched, the other clenched. Dawn brought contrition, breakfast waffles, apologies sticky with syrup. I hear you, he said, eyes earnest. No apex. Full stop. The block felt solid, but trust scar tissue stretched thin. We leaned into therapy, Theo probing, what does security look like without sacrifice? Sessions unearthed, Elias's provision tied to paternal ghosts, my independence a shield against engulfment. Homework, vulnerability dates, raw shares over walks in Green Lake, geese honking judgments. December dusted frost, holidays a gauntlet. We flew to Eugene for Tom's memorial tree planting, sapling oak in a park overlooking the river, family toasting with flasks of whiskey. Elias scattered ashes, voice steady, grow strong, Dad. Strength. He drew from it, returning energized, app pitching to investors, virtual decks that landed a seed grant, modest but validating. Our future, he grinned, funds earmarked for canyons and canvases. But betrayal's shadow lengthened. New Year's Eve, party at Myra and Lena's in Tacoma, fireworks bursting over the sound. Amid toasts and tango, Elias stepped out for air, phone in hand. I followed, catching fragments, considering. Family obligations. Apex. The name dropped like lead. Confrontation in the garden, guests' laughter muffled by hedges. You said no. Hurt lace my whisper. He flushed. Just listening. Harmless. Harmless. Lies gateway. Or testing exits. Trust fractured anew, party souring. We drove home silent, rain sheeting, ring heavy. Crisis crested January, trip weeks away. Elias's grant money bought time, but pressure mounted, app bugs demanding nights, my tour dates clashing. One blizzard-bound evening, power flickering, he confessed fully. I interviewed. Virtually. For the lead role. Interviewed. Betrayal not in action, but intent, secrecy's sting sharper. Why? I demanded, candles guttering shadows. Because I'm scared, Chase. Of failing you, of us scraping by. Dad's death. It woke something. Need to provide. Provide. Noble mask for flight. At our cost? Again? The fight ravaged, accusations of emotional abandonment, defenses of pragmatic love. You're choosing fear over us? I yelled, voice raw. He countered, and you're choosing ideals over reality. Reality. The Kazan yawned, our 3 years a house of cards. I packed a bag, essentials, sketchpad, heading to Lena's. Space, I said at the door, his plea, don't go, echoing. Tacoma Refuge, Lena's couch, Myra's herbal teas, talks till dawn. He's terrified of loss, Lena said. Like Dad's leaving all over. Terrified. Empathy warred with fury. Days blurred, my tour kicking off in Portland, readings to packed rooms, applause hollow without him. Text sporadic, his miss you, my curt replies. App updates cheered him, but grief's underbelly surfaced, panic attacks at night, calls to me at 3 a.m., voice trembling. I need you. Need. The tether pulled, but pride held. Theo mediated via video, betrayal erodes, but so does isolation. Bridge or burn? Bridge. I chose tentative, weekend meet in Olympia, neutral ground at a B&B with clawfoot tubs and coastal views. Reunion fragile, dinner at a seafood shack, crab legs cracked like shells. Words minced, his remorse raw, I was wrong. Secrecy was the sin. My hurt spilled, felt like Portland redux, but slower. Vulnerability bridged, night in the tub, water steaming, bodies aligning, forgiveness in caresses. Choose us, I whispered, his nod solemn. Back in Seattle, blocks dismantled, Apex email archived, app focus laser sharp. February thawed, trip imminent, flights booked, Zion permits secured. Healing accelerated, joint yoga in the hill, poses sinking breaths, cooking classes for fusion feasts, laughter in flower dust. Elias's app beta launched, user stories, families eased by planning, fueling him. My tour wrapped triumphantly, book climbing charts, dedications anchors resonating. We're sailing, he said, packing duffels. But climax loomed. Eve of departure, airport-bound dawn, a knock-shattered quiet, Mark, from Portland, at our door, beard trimmed, eyes regretful. Heard about your dad. Wanted to. Apologize. And talk. Talk. The ghost incarnate, timing cruel. Elias froze in the kitchen, me in hall, air electric. Now. I hissed. Mark shifted. Saw the app news. Proud. But I miss our friendship. Friendship? Euphemisms veil. Elias glanced at me, choice etched. Not now. Not ever. Door closed, Mark's footsteps fading. Aftermath quaked, Elias trembling, me holding. That was for you, he said. Us. Us. The word solidified, betrayal's spectre banished. We boarded that afternoon, plane lifting over Olympics, canyons calling. New chapter, he murmured, hand in mine. But chapters twist, and landing in Vegas, connection point, brought the turn, my phone, agent frantic. Book deal expansion, sequel now, or lose momentum. Now. Duty's call, echoing his. Go back, Elias urged, face calm. I'll hike solo, join later. Solo. Fractures whisper. No, I said, gate closing behind us. Together. Always. The vow held, sequel deferred, canyons embraced. But in red dust trails, hand in hand, I wondered, was this peak, or precipice? Zion's monoliths rose like ancient guardians, rust-red sentinels under a sky vast as forgiveness, our boots crunching angels landing trail as spring sun warmed backs. The sabbatical unfolded like a long-held breath released, days of narrow ledges and emerald pools, nights in tented camps with stars pricking black canvas. Elias moved with renewed vigor, cast scars faded, his laughter echoing off slot canyons as we rappelled chains, adrenaline bonding us tighter. This, he said, pausing at Scout Lookout, wind-whipping shirts, is living. Living. After Grease, Paul and Betrayal's Thorns, it felt revolutionary, us, unscripted, rings glinting in sweat. Sedona followed, Vortex's humming energy. We chased on Jeep tours, his hand steady on mine over rutted red dirt. App updates pinged sporadically, user testimonials like love letters, and my emails from publishers yielded flexible deadlines, sequel outlines sketched in journals amid sagebrush. Intimacy thrived wild, bonfire shadows dancing on skin, his body arching under mine, whispers of forever amid cricket choruses. No signals, no screens, just presence, healing's quiet work. I see you, he murmured one dawn, pink light gilding his face, and belief rooted deep. But return beckoned, flights west carrying canyon dust increases. Seattle greeted with May blooms, loft aired for summer. Tree jarred, bills stacked, voicemails from agents and investors. Elias's app secured a full grant, $50K, partnership with a Portland nonprofit, celebrated with rooftop oysters, city sprawl at our feet. To building, he toasted, eyes alight. Building. From ruins, Tom's death a foundation, our fractures mortar. My sequel contract signed, tour lightened, balance tilting toward us. Summer deepened bonds, pride again, marching with renewed fire, his bow a feather light this time. Community wove tighter, book club debates on resilience, coding camp where Elias mentored, teens blooming under his guidance. Intimacy evolved, explorations with toys from a discreet Capitol Hill shop, vulnerabilities shared in afterglow. I want kids, someday, with you. Kids. Dream crystallized, surrogacy talks tentative over brunches. Yet climax shadowed August, heatwave mirroring in a boil. Elias's grant demanded a demo at a San Francisco tech confab. Mandatory, schmoozing funders. 2 days, he promised, packing suits. Straight back. Back. Trust's test. I nodded, masking unease, diving into sequel drafts. Conference eve, wine loosened, he confessed nerves, bigwigs from Apex attending. Old habits die hard. Habits. The pull, ever present. Resist, I said, kiss fierce. For us. San Francisco swallowed him, bay fog echoing doubts. Texts flowed, landed safe. Miss you. Then sparse, networking dinner. Dinner. Ghosts of Portland. Sleepless, I paced, sketching tempests, calling Lena at dawn. His slipping, she asked. Slipping. Fear's narrative. Midday, a photo, him with funders, smiles professional, caption proud moments. No Apex tag. Relief ebbed, but night brought the call, 2 a.m., voice slurred. Chase? Fucked up. Met Mark. At the bar. We talked. Too much. Talked. The word detonated, betrayal's bomb. Talked how? Heart hammered. Old times. Drinks. He kissed me. I pushed away. But I didn't leave. Didn't leave. The admission gutted, canyon highs crashing to abyss. Come home, I whispered, tears hot. Now. He did, red-eye flight, landing haggard at SeaTac, capped a loft where I waited, bag half-packed, escape or ultimatum. Confrontation raw, kitchen island barrier, coffee cold. Why? I demanded, voice splinter. He collapsed onto stool, head in hands. Weak. Confab pressure, grant stakes, Mark's flattery, felt like validation. But it was poison. I stopped it, chase. Swear. Swear. Oaths worn thin. Hurt cascaded, patterns, Eli. Kiss, secrecy, now this. Am I fighting alone? He wept, reaching. No. I'm broken, Dad's ghost, my fears. But I choose you. Therapy, boundaries, whatever. Whatever. Desperation's plea. Crisis peaked, me fleeing to the balcony, rain starting, city indifferent below. Memories montage, first dates market bustle, as sterile grip, canyon's red embrace. Love's ledger, debts of pain, credits of grace. Hours later, dawn breaking, I returned. One last chance. Full transparency, phones shared, therapy weekly, no work event solo. Terms harsh, but necessary. He nodded, eyes hollow but resolute. Done. I love you too much to lose. Healing's arc bent laborious. Weekly therapy tripled, Theo, plus a couples specialist in Belltown, sessions dissecting triggers, his validation hunger, my abandonment terror. Exercises brutal, role-plays of temptations, affirmation scrawled on mirrors, worthy as is. Elias quit the app's expansion, focusing local, I pause sequel promo, prioritizing us. Community intervened, Myra's retreats in the San Juans, yoga, and Yarrow teas mending. Intimacy rebuilt brick by touch, slow, sacred, trust rekindled in eye contact, consent's dance. Fall turned, leaves gold as growth. Elias's app stabilized, users' lives eased, a quiet legacy for Tom. My sequel outlined, themes of redemption woven from our tapestry. Holidays healed, Eugene Tree visited, roots delving, family toasts to endings that begin. New Year's, balcony under stars, his vow, no more shadows. Shadows. Banished, or dormant. Winter whispered closure. Valentine's, he planned intimate, hot air balloon over the sound at dawn, basket swaying gentle, champagne chilled. Below, ferries cut wakes like scars healed. Marry me, he said, not ring but words, commitment's core. Yes, I breathed, world tilting joyful. Spring bloomed plans, commitment ceremony in the Olympics, small, under cedars, vows exchanged with rings renewed, coordinates etched anew. Yet humanistic depth emerged not in perfection, but persistence. Elias's lingering doubts surfaced in quiet confessions, some days, the pull tugs, met with my grace, then tug back to me. Love, we learned, not absence of storm, but dancing in rain. Tom's anniversary, we hiked his trail, scattering wildflower seeds, growth from loss. My book tour finale, him unstage sharing, this story's ours. Summer circled to pride once more, boa shared, march a procession of survival. In the crowd, hands linked, I saw it, not ending triumphant, but ongoing, messy, profound, human. We'd called each other worst, glimpsed ends, chosen beginnings. Everything changed in as glare, but truly in choices after, forgiveness forged, not flawless, but fierce. Back home, sunset gilding loft, Elias pulled me to dance, slow sway to Coltrane on vinyl. Our rhythm, he murmured. Rhythm. Life's beat, gay and unyielding in America's sprawl, Seattle's rains, canyons calls, heart's insistent drums. We moved, imperfect partners, toward whatever dawn.
I never meant for things to turn out this way. I really didn't.